Hi, Josh. Thank you for coming on my podcast, What Now? I'm honored to have you as my first podcast guest in person. I think I just want to start off with asking, what uh, is your story? Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Just let me, for the audience that doesn't know or they don't know who you are, just what's your story? Who do you see yourself as?
Okay.
Just start us off.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Alan.
Mhm.
I appreciate it. It's glad. I love being in LA. It's the best city in the world, so
Yes,
it's
sir.
always a pleasure to touch down and have a conversation on a that we have always on a maybe on a recorded scale. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess a little bit about who I am.
Mhm.
You know me pretty well since we've known each other for again like almost a decade, or
Yeah.
a little over a decade.
Yeah.
Um, but I was born and raised in Los Angeles, the Valley, the 818 as they call it.
Mhm.
And I have a mother and a father and one older brother and a half brother, and now a new dog. And I guess from less of the step by step process, I guess the most kind of thing is
Mhm.
the philosophy that I've always been based on is like to experience as much as possible in the short lifetime that we have, right? And so, albeit we've done things like playing video games, we tried and we went pretty far in like in-depth tournaments for League of Legends. We've done things like going out to parties and exploring Los Angeles through a lens, through Chris's avenues, and kind of just utilizing all of the passions that we've had as a group, as a kind of a cumulative, and then kind of exploring the world around us.
Right.
That's kind of just been what I've been doing for the entirety of life. I mean, I guess from an educational background, we went to the same middle school and the same high school. From there, we parted. Ended up going to Stanford for 4 years for a computer science degree with a specification in artificial intelligence, and now I'm based in San Francisco, working full time for Uber as a software engineer, which has been challenging in the sense of because, like I was saying prior, all of the life in prior was doing things through the facets of all of the group.
Right.
And once you're kind of alone, you start to push yourself in this concept of, okay, now what do I want to do? And that question is what I'd assume we've been talking about the podcast. What's next is what is next? And I guess my story, while short, is incomplete, and it's at a new chapter, and I'm excited to what it's going to take. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be asking you about your vision for the future, what goals
Okay.
you have.
Right.
But I do have a couple questions before we get to that.
Let's go. I'm an open book.
Yeah. So as you said before, we have known each other for quite a long time. We met
Right.
maybe around middle school, and we've been friends for quite a while. So we know each other on a pretty personal level, and I'm glad that I'm your friend and
Likewise.
that we've known each other for so long. Something that I'm curious about is, have you looked back on your life, and do you recognize individual moments in your life that have really shaped who you are to be today, whether that's for better or worse?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, moments, yes, actually. And I mean, the shaping, I'm not sure if I can really form, but I can see like, damn, that's what made me go this way
Right.
instead of this way. Or, damn, I'm really glad Alan took that jewel from me when my dad was in my room and I dropped that shit and I would have gotten in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great moment. Moments, I would say, that have shaped and kind of defined the characteristic of, like, how I see, I guess, my now
Mhm.
is specific moments. Were you asking, or are you asking, like, do you want, are there moments, or what are the moments?
I want to know what are the moments.
Okay.
But I mean, even if there aren't any specific moments you can
Right.
recall, maybe just broad general time frames in your life that
Right.
really have led you on this direction in life that you're on right now, like the path.
Okay, so I guess early on, I'd say the moments where I was always a kid that was like smart but never wanted to apply themselves, or had other ambitions that weren't really solely focused or navigated on school.
Yeah.
And that's when we found video games, which was an avenue where I could pursue something to the best of my my passion was in lieu with my my skill or achievement, and it was within a group. All moments within the group, would say, are moments that have defined who I am, because the success of myself is the success of the group, and the success of the group is the success of myself. Right. I'd say one key moment was when Alex, and I told him I was in Mr. Harrow's class, and it was late to class for the first day because I didn't know where to go, and there was not very many seats, like one left, and I didn't know which seat to pick. And Alex and I like stared at each other, and I had no idea if I was like sit, and he waved and told me to come over, and that was the first time I'd met anybody in the school. It was a new school, and that's how I ended up going to the groups, because everybody had gone to Balboa, everybody had, you know what I'm saying? That was one moment that was like, okay, boom, we locked into this group, like that's how we got in, you know what I'm saying? That was a vibe. That's one of the starting moments. The next moments, I would say, is when we started doing HSL, because I think HSL really was something that we all as a group were studying the game, research, like from a meta level. It wasn't even about playing and hitting buttons and hitting skill shots. It was like, how can we facilitate a communication standard within a group that will allow us to be able to do this even if we're not as skilled. That reset my mind to realize I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I have to be the person that is able to facilitate something that could be able to better myself and better the people around me through the facets that we have, like I was saying. So if you better at slicing cheese, why would I be making a whole burger when you could slice the cheese and I can make the buns and make the, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's kind of the moment. That moment, I would say, completely changed my mind on everything, because from a school basis, even though you would do yourself, like do well in academics, it's like, I don't have to, I took six APs in high school. I don't have to study for all these classes, because I'm in a good network of people that could be like, hey, could you send me the homework? Because, you know what I'm saying, like, I could get you on this one, you could get me on this one, boom. We knock out an hour, now I could study if I want to. But if realistically, my time is the biggest asset of my life, right? And everything that I do, I want to make sure that I'm doing it with somebody, otherwise it's boring. And otherwise it's not going to be something that's fulfilling to a team, because the community is so lost in this current era, especially online. So it's like, I think that's been something, I think community has been the biggest shaper of the life that I live now. And in that what's next degree, to kind of keep it back to that kind of concept, it's like, I think once you move to that new location with new people and no real sense of community, I would say, I think that's what creates that inherent struggle.
Right. It's the disconnect.
Yes, it's the disconnect. That's what I was saying.
See, I hear you very often saying that time is a man's greatest asset.
That's very true.
Yeah, can you expand on that? Like, how, in what ways does time impact the way that we live our life? Of course, it's one of the most valuable resources we have.
Sure.
But I want to know how you've come to this conclusion and what you specifically do yourself in order to maximize on your own time.
Right. I'm a hypocrite. I'm not gonna say I'm the most efficient person. I'm the biggest, like, but what I've realized through the lived experience that I have is time is a man's greatest asset, and I'll explain. For example, when you work as a kid for $16 minimum wage, $10 an hour, your time is equated to a dollar value, correct? When you get older as a man, you cannot sustain that same wage, because you no longer can get that value for your time, because it's no longer worth it, because your time as you get older becomes more and more quintessential to what you can do, because you need to, as a man, create your value. So as time passes and elongates, you have less time to be able to make your status, and therefore you can utilize time as you so please as a resource, because it's plentiful, it's abundant. I mean, you never know how much you have, and you never know when it's over, and it doesn't end because it's beyond yourself. However, the time that you do have is this sliding window of what can you do during that time to be able to build who you want to be. And so, I mean, from the example of, I don't want, it's Women's History Month, I'm not going to take it there, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, let's say we on a first date with a beautiful guy. You know what I'm saying? A beautiful, stop. Okay, we're going to reverse that. Cut that out. Say you're on a first date with a beautiful woman, okay?
Right.
And she's there because you are taking the time to impress or show this person, to court this woman. You know what I'm saying? You want to show her that you're worth spending time with. But it's less of her time, but it's more of you want her to be accompanying you during your duration, and that's why you're paying for the meal.
Mm.
I'm paying for you for your presence.
Right.
I'm paying for this meal for you to have this security, this sense of you don't got to worry about nothing.
Yeah.
I'm coming to this date because I'm showing you that I have time for you. That's the reason why if you were to go up and say like, oh, let's go to the mall, and you show up with your friend,
Yeah.
she's like, wait, so does he want to spend time with my friend, his friend, or me?
Right.
So she already knows what you got. The same way you look at her and she's like, damn, she's bad. That's an innate quality that you're like, okay, your beauty is something that I see as desirable.
Right.
And your time, or who you choose to spend your time with, she sees as, okay, he's investing his most valuable asset within myself. So that's how I take it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100%. I'm 100% certain for the life that I live.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about everybody else, but I do know that time is not guaranteed and tomorrow's not promised. So if you lose, I don't know what other asset you could have that's like larger than that, and I don't know what else you could exercise to show or gain your kind of discipline in this life that you have. Because, I mean, I think it's just important that people stop in this community, this online basis, this kind of thing, that we stop wasting the precious hours that we have, because it's so easy to get caught up in an hour-long scroll. Let me tell you, actually, as a computer scientist, the most important and the highest valued acquisition from a user is their time. Why? Why is TikTok so successful? Because you could spend 5 seconds on it. Now we got an hour.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Sucked in.
We're trying to acquire utilization of someone's presence, someone's time, in order to expand the value that we can use. We can put on for ads, time, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Anything that has public display to your eyes, what you choose to spend your time on is what they choose to put their dollars on. That's why I'd say it's your greatest asset.
That's where the money flows.
That's where the money flows.
That's where the money flows.
That's where the money goes.
Wow.
So that's what I'll say to that one.
Okay, thank you. That was very eye-opening. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Would you, looking back on your past, going back to our previous conversation, would you change anything? Is there anything that you'd want to change or alter?
I'll say no.
Okay.
I'll say no because that's how I got to this mindset here.
Right.
Is there something that I could have always done better? Yes.
Of course.
But then I wouldn't have gotten better.
Right.
And therefore, I think that's the trade-off in terms of, I mean, there are certain things I would have been like, damn, I wish I answered A instead of B because, but it doesn't, it has, in the grand scheme of things, I love the life that I live currently. Like, it's a blessing to be in this life that you live.
Right.
I think that, maybe I would have said a couple of things earlier or done a little bit of things differently, but it's very hard to kind of, I have no regrets. I don't, in the exploration sense of what I said and how I've chosen to live life, I always opt on the side of explore versus exploit one route, because I want to see everything, and I know that in seeing everything I have to mess up. And so I think I live with that. No, I wouldn't change a thing. I love this.
All right, that's great. That's great. Something that I specifically want to ask you about is charisma. What are your thoughts on charisma, first off? Do you believe that you're charismatic as an individual? I want to hear your thoughts.
Do I believe that I am personally... I'll start with that one. Do I believe I'm personally charismatic? Charisma is an interesting word. Let's actually define what that is before. Because the answer is yes. But it was only brought to my attention only recently. Okay. And it's been something that I've kind of fine-tuned to a sense, but it's less of... It's not in... I talked to my therapist about this maybe yesterday. It's not something that is conscious, nor is it effortful. Like, charisma is this essence or aura of being so self-confident or so comfortable within oneself, and also so considerate of the way that you're making others feel. And that is the charismatic, in the sense of, I know that if I open the door for you, that you don't have to open the door, and it takes me not that much effort. And it's a nice gesture. It's putting you in front of, if I am going to the towel rack and you're sweating, and I'm sweating, and I grab 2 towels, you didn't ask me to do nothing.
Right.
But I'm observant.
Yeah.
I see the room before you see the room. But that's because I've watched for a long time, and therefore I could see what's happening before it happens. And so that way I can adapt. I utilize that time. Greatest asset.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm able to prepare for what may not be, but it's also a security blanket. In the sense of, if, like, a charismatic act would be if I'm going to walk on the right side of the street just in case this car comes. That's called chivalry. Okay. But you could also see it as something that's charismatic in the sense that something happens. If you are in a room, how can you control that room? Not by manipulative schema, but by inviting everybody to open themselves up to become comfortable. Going to someone that isn't talking to anybody or feeling down and saying like, hey, what's your name? My name's Josh. Boom. Open them up to the room. Now they're open up to the room. Now the room open up. Now nobody's having a bad time. We all having a good time. Right. So it's less about, I could charm you if you want to. And that's a delicate balance between manipulative and being true to who you are. Because and that is about, I mean, and I don't know if that's in your questions, but that's what I've been kind of curtailing in my relationships with women, is I realize that I could just say exactly what you want. Say exactly what you want to hear, because I know what you want to hear. But that's not true to who I am, because then in that process now I'm selling you on a dream that's so good that you can't deny it, but never giving you the dream because it don't feel as if I value the presence that you have. And so charisma is simply conscious awareness and this decision to account for your community, as opposed to only being considered of the self. And that's this American sense, or I don't know, this age that we're in is very, how can I get to this new thing? How can I? But no one's asking how can I help others. Because it's not in that same equation. And I think charisma is solely based on the way that you make others feel. So that's really what it comes down to, and that's kind of this principle of, I've been treated poorly by many people. I mean, you as a black person, you live on this tiptoed stance of this inward hatred and this outward kind of reflection of nothingness, in that sense of, you don't really know who you live in, this constant sense of nobodiness, because you know the outward projection is, damn, this person probably doesn't like me because I'm black, and the inward projection is like, damn, this person might not want me to do this because you're black. So what you want to do in that charismatic sense is you put this, how can I be the best person regardless of the skin tone to this person, so that even though that I am this way, they can't deny it. But you see how it's, but not in a manipulative sense, in the sense of, let me make this a fostered environment for comfortability, as opposed to your innate disapproval or discomfort around people that look like myself. So it's a holistic thing, and it's something I'd imagine if you're in a room of black people, you'll see how well they could turn up that room. Like it's I think it's a quality of culture, and I think I've done a good job at fine tuning that art.
I would have to agree, because personally I think that you're one of the most charismatic people I know, and that's a trait that I really admire in you.
Appreciate it.
Like, especially like your social ability and just your ability to open up people is something that I've noticed and witnessed firsthand. And so I just had to ask you about it.
I appreciate it.
Is this something that you're consciously aware of, and something that you work towards whenever you're in a social setting?
Yeah. There are challenges which become fun, but I can read someone and the way that I put it, we play a lot of golf. So if someone, I'm always willing to go green behind someone, 100%, let's go, until they start putting up the red flags like it's a golf course. You get what I'm saying? Because I can see the pattern before it even happens. And so it is a conscious thing. It's consistent. It's always, I can see how you're behaving.
Yeah.
And what I've currently been learning is what to tolerate and what not to tolerate.
Setting boundaries.
Right. However, it's not. Again, it's not something that's effortful, if that makes sense. So it's conscious, but it doesn't take any effort.
Right.
Any longer. If there's a new, and you learn every day, if there's some new person, some new archetype of a human being that does something that is completely out of my scope, then maybe that was going to be like, whoa, how am I supposed to, like, I've never been in this situation. I've never, like, I don't know what to say or what to be. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with. But again, tying back to that, I've opted for this life of experience, and therefore there is my repertoire to the ability to handle a situation is vast and grandiose, and it's capable of being able to manage different situations with different people because I've been in different situations with different people.
Right.
And that's the only way that I believe that, like, the charisma is capable, because I can hear the words before you. The brain speaks in tongues that the vocabulary is not capable of describing. But you can recognize the way that someone is feeling based on the patternistic expression of communication.
Right.
And that's the difference of most people are listening to listen to the words, but the charisma comes from listening to the whole picture.
Right.
And that's how you can really fine tune that out, because you can listen to what someone's saying, but what someone's saying is not how they feel all the time. The majority of the time.
So it's more. There's more of a feeling involved rather than just the listening, and you have to pay attention to the nonverbals.
You ever heard a girl say, I don't care about what you said, it's about how you said it?
No, I haven't.
Damn.
But
yeah, that's a lyric right there. It's not about how you say it, it's how you said it. You know, it's not about what you said, it's about how you said it. It's the tone, the expression, your facial cues, your movements. Are you jittering your finger? Are you jittering? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you uncomfortable? Are you looking away? Are you sweating? Like, are you not capable of maintaining eye contact? Are you saying it in a dismissive way as if you're better than someone? Are you saying it with an elevated tone? Are you saying it calmly? Are you saying, how are you trying to get your point? Because without you being able to even notice yourself, someone can say, you said that in spite of me. Without you, because you know that they're utilizing verbal communication to be like, oh, that's rich. That's not you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? And so that's how it's a whole package. And you just have to be willing to look at it as it is, but holistically, and not just what they're saying. And that's what text makes really hard. Like, because especially the way that I talk, like, I'm not a texter. Like, I don't even look at my phone that often. It's like, you lose a lot in translation, and that's why a lot of people don't get these kind of interactions, because a lot of the interactions no longer are in person.
Right, they're all online. They've shifted.
And so that's why that charismatic trait is something that I've seen as, like, highly important, especially in the now, because it's very hard to find someone that will listen to it, will know how you're feeling without you saying a word.
Yeah, I think listening is as much a skill as speaking.
Fair.
Right?
Very true.
Because communication goes both ways.
Very true.
And it's important for one part to be speaking, but for the other to really understand and listen.
Yeah.
Right? That's true. Do you have any advice on how someone can become or practice the skill of becoming charismatic? Other than just looking at the whole picture and trying to better understand what a person is expressing despite their verbal?
Sure. Maybe we could do this in an example form. In what room, what setting, and what, like, for example, and for what purpose? Because I think these are all things that you need to understand. For example, charismatic in a date sense has no parallel to charismatic in a group sense.
Okay.
Because essentially what you want to do is analyze, what is my goal? And what do I want the other person to feel? Okay? So if I'm on this date, I want this person to feel secure, comfortable, and see me as a potential interest. So in doing so, without being overtly demonstrative of how you want this person to feel, you want to make subtle cues of how can I make this person feel more secure?
Okay.
Within your own arsenal, what do you know would make someone feel secure? Hey, how's your day? Ask them about how they're doing so that they can take the shell off of, oh God, I'm on a date. Like, I wonder if he thinks I look cute. Like, compliments. Like, wow, I really like that outfit choice. That is like, what are you, a fashion artist or something? Boom. Give them a compliment.
Yeah.
No, I just thought I threw it on. Okay, that's amazing. Like, you do a good job. So how was your day? Now we're not even thinking about the date. We're thinking about how was my day. I'm going back onto something that's comfortable. Boom. Now we have to set it. How can I make you feel more comfortable? You could open the door. You could do that. You don't have to do any of that.
Right.
But you ask the person is, you know what I'm saying? You might have previously discussed what you could do is go to a spot would make you the most comfortable. So I'm going to Sugarfish. That's honestly me because I know the menu back and forth. I don't even look at the menu. I know exactly what you need. Are you allergic to anything? Boom. Boom. 60-60 bulk at the Nazawa. It's easy. Now we there. We're not even talking. The menu, the food is coming to us. We're talking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's removing this barrier of uncertainty and guiding someone through a level of surety so that they don't have, because you've already explored the path, but it's new to them.
Right.
So they don't have to jailbreak. So for anything that, in a setting that you're comfortable, you're mostly yourself, correct?
Yes.
And thus, how can you foster an environment that is secure for yourself that you can invite someone into your bubble? And that would be a general application to everything in terms of like if you're in a friend group and you're comfortable in your friend group and someone new joins.
Yeah.
So it's easy to talk to the person that's like that you already know, but how can you communicate with this how can you invite them into your kind of circle? How can you invite them? And then that way you can be the person that can kind of disseminate like, hey, I don't think this person's like really good. I'm not really vibing, or like, damn, this person's really cool. Maybe we should invite him out, because now you're being the person that's doing the facilitation for this person that most people wouldn't want to do. You're doing the work that most people wouldn't want to or don't have to do.
Right.
That's what you're doing, work that people don't have to do, and it's the unnoticed work that's the most noticed. And so, I guess the advice in terms of charisma is knowing what the right decision is, but being conscious of how your decision will make other people feel. And therefore, recalculating what decision you should make based on the benefit of the people that you're incorporating in this decision, as opposed to what's the sole basis for the self. And that's how you can become charismatic, because charisma is solely being consciously aware of how you make other people feel, and in a good sense.
Right. So would you say that you have a lot of experience putting yourself in other people's shoes?
100%. That's my whole life, because again, like, I mean, how many black people are in AP classes?
Probably very few.
How many black people are in our friend group?
One.
How many black people are at Stanford, would you imagine?
Probably a small minority.
And so your whole life is this concept of nobodiness, correct? And so in doing so, what you need to do is put yourself in other people's shoes. Why did they do this? How are they so comfortable to be able to do this? How are they so confident in the way that they are capable of being themselves without any merit or basis of confidence? You're so comfortable within your own skin without having any doing or being, because you've societally become a person that's well receptive. So by putting yourself in their shoes, now you've put yourself in nearly everybody's shoes that you've experienced, and you get to gauge how your interactions make other people feel, so that you can kind of gauge and I don't want to say manipulate, but achieve the goal that you're set out for based on the interaction that you have with someone. And so I think that's the key. I think homogeneity in a social circle breeds for lack of ability to create this charisma, because you don't need to.
Yeah.
So when you have this I said homogeneity. Yeah, it is. And then
sounds
heterogeneity.
Right. Yeah.
Within, so when you're different, that breeds, because let me show you for an easy example.
When a white guy is around with a black dude, there's a lot of things he's thinking about what he can and can't say because he's considering how the other person feels. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's it. That's charisma at a baseline. That's a base case charisma.
That's where it starts.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so that's how you should approach. Like, that's a good way to approach it.
So put yourself in situations where you think in other people's shoes and think best ways that you can make them comfortable.
And the easiest way to do that is when you yourself feel comfortable.
That's another thing I do want to ask you about, because
Go for it.
I noticed that you especially seem very comfortable in your own body, in your own person. Where does it come from?
It took a lot of work. That's what it came from. It took a lot of work. I mean, that's what it is. Like, as a man, you build your value, and you know, this hair, you know what I mean? That's not, you know what I mean? That's that, y'all know what I mean? That's work. The chain, the ring, the you know, the light, like, these are materialistic.
Yeah.
However, it means a lot. Like, it's not the most expensive. It's a certificate. The watch is a representation of the value of the time that it's taken to get to here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The comfortability within oneself, and I guess again also too is from that charisma kind of aspect, because there and also it comes from this idea of the experience. Is I've experienced so much that it's really hard for me to become uncomfortable, because I've already been in so many situations. So none of this is really new to me.
Right.
This is new to me. This is cool.
Yeah.
But it's this notion of, like, I'm glad something can happen to me because I know I can get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll bet on myself every time.
Yeah.
And I'll bet on my group every time. So you could build strength within yourself, and you could build strength from those around you. And so your source of energy is based on this concept of what I have is when you're mental. The being is consistent of three things: the mental, the physical, and the philosophy. And so when your mental is essentially whatever your thoughts are, but they're not who you are. You get to operate who you are. So when your mental process is backed by the philosophy that's guiding you when you don't know the answer, and your actions are demonstrative of your philosophy, of your thoughts, and your mental state, as well as the like, everything is in lieu. You achieve this balance in which you don't really have to worry about, am I moving the right way? Am I doing this the right way? There's no anxiety of, am I?
Right.
Because you're confident in the sense of, even if I'm not doing this right, then I can reassess and say, hey, Josh, that wasn't right. What you did in that moment, but that takes self-actualization as well. So it's knowing that even if I'm wrong, it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. You don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect.
Right.
I experienced it, and I need to take a step back after the experience and say, you know what, I didn't like the way that made another people feel, or you know what, I didn't like how I felt in that moment. Let me redefine my philosophy so that I can retrain my mind to think how I should act in the next moment. So when your mental is aligned with your physical as well as your philosophy, then how can you be uncomfortable? This whole set is solely just a set of it's a vehicle that's been given to you, and you just have to learn how to drive it the best.
Right. So it's the proper alignment of those three things, and having the conviction that what you're doing is in alignment with that
Correct.
Brings you the confidence. Okay.
And it's not lying to yourself.
Right.
Because when you start lying to yourself, that's when you become really for example, if you know you shouldn't, let's use a topic of it. If you know you shouldn't drink and drive, and you start drinking and you start driving, what you doing?
Yeah.
How you know what I'm saying? You're gonna be uncomfortable. You're gonna be uncomfortable around me, especially when I hit you with the why you doing it, and so that's not a comfortable situation for you. So now you're not gonna be able to be who you want to be in your own skin. But when you live by the philosophy that you believe is to be the best of who you can be, and your actions are a representation of what you think is correct, how could you be unconfident?
Of course.
Wow.
So it's a matter of aligning those three things, do you have a personal philosophy that you follow?
It adapts over time.
It adapts over time.
But yeah, I mean, is it set in stone? No, because that's the point of a philosophy. But do I have like a wide gauge of how I can specify the nuances? Not really. But based on my philosophy is a representation of my lived experience, and what I know to be is something that is like something that is true to who I want to be, and the philosophy is defined by what has happened, who I am now, and what do I want to be. And so the reason why you need the philosophy is because your mental is going to say, what should I do next, right? And when you don't know the answer and you have a assortment of choices, you need to be able to walk in the direction of the philosophy that's leading the way, but knowing that it might not be right, but choosing it because you believe it. And once you know that it may be right, or if it's not right, having the self-actualization to be able to say, you know what, that's not the path that I want to go. Let me readjust that philosophy and walk in the next direction. Or this is right, this is leading me in the path that I want to go. Boom, let's beeline it. And so that helps you gain confidence to make decisions that are not clear.
Right.
Because not all decisions or choices are clear, and respectfully. And so that's a new philosophy after leaving college, because there's no more, okay, you go to elementary, you go to middle, you go to middle, you go to high, you go to high, you go to college, job, now what?
Right. Can you explain a little bit of your philosophy that you have right now to give people a better understanding of how they can shape their own personal philosophies?
Yeah. I mean, a little into the charisma thing is put yourself in the shoes of, like, you want to be a person that not only operates in the best of oneself, but in the best of others' interests, so that you don't create an environment that is uncomfortable for everyone, or solely just comfortable for yourself, because in that sense, then you'll just be alone. My philosophy is encompassed around, again, this idea that community is the most important aspect, and we aren't anything without those that we confide in and trust and choose to be within this kind of tribe sense. I don't think humans are operant without some level of social circle. I think that we're actually anxiety induced or not confident when you don't have these kind of things. And I think that my philosophy is essentially, how can I utilize this time so that I can be a man that is not only a great man, but a great man that is capable of creating great men as well, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think that's a really hard thing to fine tune, because tough times make strong men.
Yeah.
And easy going make weak men. And so trying to, I guess, portray a perspective of myself and cultivate a message that has words that are piercing enough to shape the life that you want to live. And I guess it's in line with a lot of the philosophy that I've kind of been recently just enamored by, is Martin Luther King's philosophy, and that sense of the nobodiness quote is his, and his ability to communicate verbally, to be able to move just entireties of people, nations, and against a force that was something that is not even seen as capable of moving, removing slavery. And if you listen back to the things that he says, his message transcends time. And that's the thing that is the most powerful, and it's hard to even describe in words, but the ability to live a life that is so large in perspective that you can communicate what the future will hold. That's a skill or a philosophy that I would love to be able to kind of what am trying. That's a gift that I hope to be able to one day unwrap.
Yeah.
And a philosophy that
is a absolute that I may never achieve, but I'll try. But a lot of
what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did is a lot of what I abide or live by in that sense.
Yeah, I think the quote is there's a quote that says, "Strong men or hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times.
Yes.
And then bad times create strong men. So it's a cycle, and it's something that we're going through like to this day. And where do you think we are right now in that cycle?
Oh, come on, man. I don't even think we have weak men. I think we have lost men. And I don't think it's just men. I think we have lost women too.
Society as a whole.
I think we have a lost society. And what I would say is because we have such an individualistic core when the core should be the tribe.
Yeah.
And therefore you have polarization based on the individual, because you can only, as an individual, if you have a tribe basis, you're going to normalize to one or the other. Yeah. And thus you create this democratic upheaval of just absolute marginalized parties that can no longer communicate, because our core is based on being valued by whatever these ideals that maybe we don't uphold, but we'd rather be this than even discuss with that.
Right.
Whereas in prior, we were able to have neighbors that, although you voted Trump and I voted Biden or whatever the case, it's not presidential, but in terms of that tribal sense, it's like, I value you because you are within my tribe, and regardless of what you believe politically, as a human being, I think that you are worthy of being within my vicinity or my tribe, or someone that I want to give lemons to when you don't have enough at the store. But again, this online reach is now I don't even need you. I can DoorDash that. I could DoorDash the lemons. I could DoorDash the sugar. I could find somebody else online that I could talk to. So I don't even have to walk out and talk to you. That's the crazy part. And it's beneficial to society. It's beneficial in the sense that as an individual stays, it's beneficial to the market, because an individual will spend more because they don't have any focus on building something greater than themselves.
Right.
And I think it sucks, man. And I think this concept of settling or whatever is because we have, again, this plague of choice. Remember, at the dinner date, you don't even got to worry about what's on the menu. You're going to enjoy it regardless. Now we got, you know what I'm saying, we in Dubai, we got South Beach, Miami, what up? You know what I'm saying? We could go to New York, we could go to LA, you know, we could go to Texas, what's that, 6th Street, Houston. We all around. I could see everything. So why would I want to be with this person?
Right.
When I could go sample here, it's the same thing that I'm talking about with experience, but now you're doing it with other human beings.
People.
And that's what's really, and I was doing it too. That's what I'm saying. I had to curtail is, it's not about you. You're not even considering about how you making this other person feel. Like you could really, this person could be on their last relationship. And you just going, you know what I'm saying, South Beach, thanks for flying me out. Like, woo, you could turn it, you know what I'm saying? And that creates more lost men. And that creates more lost women in this and that's the cycle. But it's a new cycle. We've shifted paradigms. Thomas Kuhn has a great thing about paradigms. Is like when there's a cyclical nature until there's something revolutionary like technology that forces you to shift your paradigm. And so now we're in uncharted territories. Like, I think that humans are intelligent enough to be able to get rid of things that aren't benefiting them any longer. And if they're not intelligent enough, then society will punish them. Not society, but nature will punish them for not being beneficial. And that's in the sense of, Chris and I were talking about this. When someone that deletes their social media knows that this is just no good for me.
Yeah.
Having that conscious awareness, your brain is saying, like, dude, like, I know we're getting these dopamine hits, but, like, bro, like, this is just not really doing it for us.
Not productive.
If you can't, once it gets to a scale where it's undeniably damaging, and I'll give you an example of what I think is, once artificial intelligence is capable of taking a video and mapping it to whatever you want to say, we're going to have this idea of disillusion of trust. Because we're not going to know what we see online is actually real. And the same thing you see with Photoshop, Kim Kardashian. Yeah. But once we get into a video-based format, you could be watching a video that has no actual real... You could see Joe Rogan podcast with... Got that sound? Not a single word from Joe Rogan, but just an AI bot that has mapped his voice and is capable of re-rendering the way that his lips are moving. Wow. And once you get to that point, then the value of online basing is so useless that you need to be communicating in person because you can't trust anything you see online. And so I think maybe once we reach that inflection point, we have the ability to either reduce back to in-person communication or into the metaverse.
Right. So it's either we escalate it further into
it will
a whole
escalate
nother,
further.
or we revert back.
I think it'll escalate. And at a certain point, humans will become tired of commercials. Humans will become tired of something that's just not true. Like it's so facetious in nature that it's incapable of even wanting to spend a single amount of time on, like those ads that you see on the side of there's a hot girl near you. They get no attention. Yeah. The human mind will no longer provide it any attention. Right. Because it's so useless. Right. And so I think that's when society may correct itself.
It's interesting. But we are in the very early stages of it, especially because Photoshop and that kind of stuff has become trendy recently. Yeah, right. Exactly. It hasn't been out that much, so we're still trying to adjust to it. Yeah. And I feel like society as a whole has kind of accepted it, rather than rejected it, and I think it'll take a while before we reach that point.
It might not happen in our lifetime. I'm not saying this in our, but I'm telling you, here's what's gonna happen. What happens when all these OnlyFans girls' moms are moms? Yeah. What happens?
It's a very weird generation.
What happens when we on Instagram and your mom is taking a plentiful, I don't know what the verbiage on this, but a plentiful phallic item into her mouth, and it's online for your whole class to see? Yeah. How's that gonna make her feel? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not saying OnlyFans is bad. I'm saying people aren't considering how it may impact other people. And that other person is someone within your own family.
In your own community, yeah.
And your goal, if your goal is to be a wife, how are you achieving that through this?
Right. Yeah, people are forgetting the long-term consequences.
People aren't considering how it may make other people feel.
Right. Comes back to that.
Always comes back to it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Do you have any advice for your past self?
I would say don't be so hard on yourself. But I think doing that, I think where I'm at now is a factor of being hard on oneself. But I think there are times where I could have been like, dude, it's okay to mess up. Like, it's okay to have a bad week, a bad month. Like, but it's so irregular to in that sense, when you always got to be on your A game. You got to be on point, because if you're not, you don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah. But I'd only say don't be so hard on yourself, because I don't think I don't think much would change.
Okay. Would you use that same advice into the future? Like, are you able to recognize times when you are hard on yourself and maybe dial it back?
Yeah, no, I can relax more now. Especially after this last year, it was kind of like a victory lap of just like,
having fun, spending money, like you've reached all your goals in life. You've reached all of them that you set out for.
So go ahead and have fun.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to relax. I've never learned how to relax. I've always been go, 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 go. And taking that time to step back and say, let's take it easy. You've had a lot. Let's relax. And it's still a work in progress, but in the future, I don't want to say I want to be I want to be easy. I'm like, that's not. In the hard moments, I want to be able to say it's okay to go hard on yourself. It's okay to have a bad day.
Yeah.
Instead of exponentiating the negative experience by saying, damn, why are you feeling like this? Like you should be. And I think it's in that moment. It's not even about the future. It's within the present of saying like, yo, dude, it's okay that you messed up. Like I'm saying now in the experience, you just wanted to try something new. Not everything's going to work out. And that's all. That's what it is. You don't have to be like, beat yourself up about it and be like, damn, you're such a loser. It's, hey, we tried it, didn't work, on to the next. And that's a way easier frame of mind. And also not putting myself in situations where I will be open to the vulnerable hurt in that sense. And that's beyond the goal setting, but patternistic recognition of the way that people are treating you and setting those boundaries is a new thing of like, you know what? Even if you may not, or even if you may change, like you've shown me enough to where I don't even want to go further.
Yeah.
That's a better, and that way I can protect my peace.
Okay. What are you learning right now? What is something that you're trying to learn or something that you're trying to improve on?
And so that's a great question, and that's a multi-dimensional question because it's what I've learned, and I'd say it's concluded as of maybe last week is that one, I didn't have any more goals after I had already achieved. My behavior was a representation of
society's expectations.
Yes, but also like, damn, we did it, let's go have fun kind of thing.
Okay.
And when you ask what next,
yeah,
what is next? I didn't have any goals, and I don't know what the goals should be. And so what I learned is that you need to have new goals. You need to, regardless of what they are, you need to have something that because progression as a human being is something that's going to indicate like that dopamine of like, wow, I'm moving towards something. And once you like it, it's like, ooh, yeah, I like it. But I also learned that a large amount of that go, go, go mentality is from a source of trauma, of the sense of, I'm doing this because I need to be at this place. Because if I don't, everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
And so what I learned is how to source drive and that inner fire of passion without putting yourself in a position of that trauma again. Of learning how to be like, okay, I got to where I needed to get to because of what that trauma was. I don't want to ever be there again. How do I not put myself back in there and still have that same drive to get to a new place? That's what I've learned. And what I'm learning is what activities are interesting to myself. Again, of who does Josh want to be in the next 5 years? Or what does Josh want to do on the weekends instead of going to bottomless mimosas? Where does Josh want to go in the world? Where does Josh want to... So for a list, I would say, when I go back to San Francisco, I'm planning on getting into like relearning tennis or just having tennis lessons. And while it's not a teaching, it's redefining or
revitalizing.
Refining.
Refining?
Revitalizing, refining the skill of the tennis to get back into this comfortability of something that I used to do in a new environment
Yeah.
As well as getting revitalizing golf or refining Spanish in order to maybe go to Spain in that sense of just giving yourself like a future outlook of like, this is time that I have.
Yeah.
But it's time well spent.
Yeah.
And if it's time well spent, then I'm okay with spending. And that's what I would say is what I'm redefining, because it's very easy again to be in your room for 8 hours and not do anything.
Yeah.
And not see the city, not live in the moment. And so that's what I've been learning.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
What is something that you're struggling with?
That's a good question. I'm struggling with redefining what community is from an adult perspective. It's always been proximal.
Yeah.
And it's easy when it's proximal.
Yeah.
And proximity is the largest indication for community. Because you can't really... It's really hard to set up a camp when you're in San Francisco, Yeah. Like, it's hard to be like, hey, let's hang out kind of thing. And that is the advantage of technology, and that is the advantage, but it's balancing that. It's a delicate balance between how much time do I want to spend online and how much time do I want to live my life.
Right.
And so struggling would be more past, and there's a lot of stuff that comes with that inability to have the community that creates that anxiety, and that would be that struggle. But I think that I'm at a good place, and I've been able to I guess remember that when I come back, it's gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or it's all gonna be the same. And it's not like I ever doubted that, but I guess it becomes a distant memory, and therefore the refresher, I think, makes it a lot easier to go back and be like, all right, now it's time to go. You know what I'm saying? And I guess a lot of what I was struggling with from like a holistic perspective is I know who I am and I know what it takes to get to where I'm going to be. What I was struggling with is who am I going to lose in the process of when I get to where I want to be. And that was what I was struggling with. And so I think I've answered that question for myself. And I think that I think I'm no longer worried about losing the right people, if that makes sense, because I don't think that's possible.
Right.
So I think that's become a new answer and a new source of fuel of I can go this way while this person goes this way, and we can meet me halfway type.
Right.
And that'll be okay.
Okay. So the last question I want to ask you before we end off.
Okay.
So what is next? What can you share with me one of your goals? Something that you're looking forward to in the future?
That's a great question. Hold on. So what's next? It's almost April, and if it's almost April, that means it's almost May. So what's next is almost the both of ours' birthday. You feel what I'm saying,
You're right.
twin?
Yeah.
So we got that coming up. I guess on my vision board, we're gonna get back into peak shape, summer body, summer form.
I love it.
It's a big goal. Next goal is we're going to again learn some new and revitalize some new skills that we've had. 3 is we're going to shift the focus from frat bro drink culture on weekends to let's go live at a tipsy life as opposed to blackout drunk. Number 5 is we're going to start saving for trips. I'm planning on going to Miami, coming back to LA, doing a little thing, and then going to Spain, hopefully, as well as saving for the economic downturn that is among us, and hopefully buying a house when it's at a discount, and just kind of getting everything bootstrapped in, and like, because right now we have play money, you know what I'm saying? It's like, here's your little Monopoly money, like boom, boom, boom. It doesn't affect the way that you live your life, because at the end of the day, you have a good base case. You could go back home.
Yeah.
trying to set up a better foundation. Again, like I was saying about knowing that I've got everything and I can't fail.
Right.
So once I'm there, then we'll re-ask again the question, what's next?
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.